Hey, Beastisty here, and welcome back to the VDL. Will be the first week of the new season of the VDL. We are going to be playing against the Tyranitartar Sauces. This is definitely going to be a tough match because Saki is definitely one of the better players in the league, and let's get into the matchup. So the team on the left is mine, and the team on the right is my opponent's. If you want to do a team wrap up, I have in my previous video I discussed my entire draft. So if you would like to watch that, you can. But if not, this is the match. I'm doing mono dark. So looking at my team, my opponent's team, looking namely at their team first, we see that the things I consider most scary are the rain modes, which is Polytoad with either Poliwrath and Mantine, but specifically with Poliwrath because fighting coverage does do very well into my mono dark team. So other than the rain mode, which is definitely something I'm concerned about, I also need to be able to deal with Gardevoir because it has fairy coverage, which is very good. However, because it is a fairy psychic Pokemon, it does take neutral damage from dark moves. So I do have a fairly good way to deal damage to it. However, something like Choice Scarf, Gardevoir with Moonblast, or Dazzling Gleam could do a lot of damage. Other than that, the other Pokemon I'm notably concerned about are specifically Moltres and Raikou. So Moltres is very concerned because I actually don't have great super effective damage into it. Um, and Raikou being one of the faster Pokemon, being able to set up Reflect and Light Screen could be very concerning. And its speed tier being faster than almost my entire team is also very scary. So looking at my team, the first thing that speaks out to me is that Sableye has Prankster Sunny Day. And so that's definitely going to be one of the most effective ways to deal with the speed advantage that the rain on my opponent's team gets, and also a good way to deal with stab water moves that the Pokemon in the rain can get. So, with the assumption that I want to do Sunny Day, another Pokemon that is interesting could be Shiftry, because Shiftry gets Chlorophyll, and so in the sun, Shiftry can outspeed pretty much every single thing on my opponent's team. Even most of their Pokemon with the Choice Scarf, it can outspeed in the sun. And so those are kind of the first two Pokemon that definitely speak out to me. And the next is Weavile, because Weavile does outspeed my opponent's team. My opponent's team is pretty weak into ice. It doesn't have many ice resist except for specifically Politoed and Poliwrath. And those Pokemon, as I said, can be concerning, but hopefully I can deal with them with Sableye and Shiftry. Other than that, uh, it's definitely not super clear what the best Pokemon are, but I was able to definitely cut out some Pokemon because they seem very bad. So, for example, Guzzler doesn't seem good into their team. Lanoon doesn't seem very good into their team. Um, Bisharp doesn't seem particularly good into their team. And so I ended up getting to this team. So this is the team I'm bringing. So starting off, I have Mandibuzz with a Wakanberry. So their team is very special. So the idea is that Mandibuzz can hopefully sit there, snarl, and roost, and be able to prevent them from doing large amounts of damage, while I get damage from other Pokemon on my team. So Sableye, I decided to go with Fake Out, Quash, Encore, and Sunny Day. It's a little bit risky because I'm not a huge fan of going with no damaging moves other than Fake Out. But honestly speaking, I want Sunny Day quite a bit because of the rain package. I want Quash because the speed control package or speed control aspect seems very important. And then Encore is a good way to punish protects and other moves like that. And I definitely the ability to do that. And then Fake Out obviously being incredibly powerful. So next we have Shiftry. Shiftry I gave Life Orb with a Fake Out. It's I don't really want to click Fake Out too much, but if I definitely misread into the lead, it having Fake Out definitely gives me the opportunity to make it useful, even if it's a terrible lead matchup. Next, we have oh yeah, and then I gave it Solar Blade specifically over Leaf Blade, which is very risky. But in the sun, it attacks in one turn, and Solar Blade is guaranteed to one shot Poliwrath and guaranteed to one shot Politoed unless they have a Grass Resist Berry, which is the big reason I decided to bring Solar Blade over something like Leaf Blade, which will likely not kill those Pokemon in one hit. However, it doesn't have to have the sun up to be as consistent. Next, we see Weavile. So Weavile, I gave it the Focus Sash because there's not really a consistent way to make sure it survives because it's definitely not the bulkiest Pokemon. It's got a 4 times weakness to fighting. It's definitely it will die to kind of any fairy moves. So I decided to do that and gave a fake out, triple axle, psycho cut, and third slash, so psycho cut to deal with Poliwrath, triple axle to hit most of their team, and hopefully I can hit the triple axles, and it does very good. Next, we go with the Choice Band Urshifu with Close Combat, Wicked Blow, Sucker Punch. And then U-Turn. I tried a couple other moves, but it ended up being the case that Wicked Blow just almost always does more damage than them. And so Wicked Blow, Choice Band Wicked Blow kills a lot of the Pokemon on my opponent's team that you would not be really expect to see that it one-shots. It can one-shot a Raikou. It can one-shot... it has a chance. It might actually one-shot Politoed. It definitely does an incredibly large amount of damage, and it is definitely a little bit of a questionable decision because it can die for a lot of my opponent's Pokemon very easily, but hopefully I'm able to kind of get into a position where I can just hit a couple wicked blows and get some one shots. And then finally we have Contrary Malamar with Assault Vest. Like I said previously, they have a lot of special attackers on their team. And so I gave it the Assault Vest specifically to kind of take some of those damage, and then I gave it a pretty standard set, which is Superpower to use to benefit with Contrary, which increases its attack and defense whenever it attacks. And then I gave it Psychic and Dark coverage, and then Rock coverage to deal with some of the other Pokemon, and kind of break some Focus Ashes and things like that. And so overall, that's my team. I don't know. Some of these sets I'm a little bit questioned about, but hopefully it goes well. So let's get into the matches.
Here we are for the match. So looking at my opponent's team, I can say that they pretty much have exactly the Pokemon I would expect to see. The Rain Mode Moltres, which are all Pokemon I was concerned about, and Gardevoir. So I honestly probably should have came up with a better game plan, but I don't actually know my best leads. I have a couple of possible leads, mainly Weavile plus Malamar, Weavile plus Urshifu, Sableye versus Shiftry, Sableye and Urshifu. So those are the big possible leads that I'm not exactly sure, and so this mainly depends on what I'm expecting to see. So I decided to start with Urshifu Weavile because Weavile's fake out pressure is very good, and this is probably one of the better leads into a possible Moltres lead, which is what I'm expecting in game 1, given the fact that clearly I'm hopefully expecting them to assume that I have a reasonable answer to the Politoed Poliwrath lead. And in the back, I have Mandibuzz and Malamar. Mandibuzz is definitely one of the important Pokemon in this matchup, and Malamar is generally a powerful Pokemon in this matchup as well. So they lead Raikou Gardevoir, which is definitely not the best lead for me personally. So here I have pressure, and Gardevoir reveals Trace, which also gets pressure. I'm not exactly sure pressure's priority, so I'm not sure if this showed that Weavile is faster than Gardevoir or not. So if Weavile is faster than Gardevoir, then I know that I should outspeed with Urshifu. And if I outspeed with Urshifu, then the clear play is just a Wicked Blow. And so so basically I'm just debating whether or not I should risk it, because I don't actually know if pressure is one of those abilities that has a higher priority than the other abilities. And so I decided to fake out Gardevoir just to be safe. However, if I knew for a fact that they were not Choice Scarf, I would have triple axled into Raikou, which would have been the better play. However, this was kind of a lack of information that I didn't have time to look up during the middle of the battle. So we fake out Gardevoir, and the Aura Sphere goes out into Urshifu, and because it goes faster than the Gardevoir, we know that Gardevoir is not Choice Scarf, and that fake out turn 1 was in fact completely wasted. This then ends up killing the Gardevoir. I likely would have killed Gardevoir regardless of the fake out damage, and if I would have just triple axled into Raikou, I would have gotten a lot more damage, but this is the safe play because I really wanted to kill Gardevoir, because Gardevoir is really good to all the Pokemon I brought. So they bring up Poliwrath, and here I'm pretty sure they're likely going to switch into Politoed, and I'm guessing that they're going to attack into Urshifu with maybe Liquidation or something. I decided to kind of do triple axle, even though I'm really expecting Raikou to switch out into Politoed to get the speed boost from Poliwrath. I didn't want to risk the possibility of Raikou just, doing nothing here. However, if I did get the triple axle off into Raikou, I probably um, would feel safe kind of doing a dark move into this spot because it probably, the difference between triple axle and a dark move would kill Raikou here. So they do in fact withdraw the Raikou, which was pretty expected, and I definitely could have played around that, and maybe I would say it's a misplay. And I withdraw the Urshifu into the Mandibuzz here. And they end up bulking up the Poliwrath. The bulk up in the Poliwrath is definitely, can be very concerning. Poliwrath is definitely a hard Pokemon for me to deal with in a general sense, if I don't get speed control, and they are faster than me right now. However, Triple Axle does very good damage to Politoed, and so here the really only reasonable play is to Tailwind, so my Urshifu and or Weavile can outspeed Poliwrath, and the options are kind of switch in, but that's not really a reasonable option, so I decided to just Psycho Cut into the Poliwrath spot. So they Drain Punch into the Weavile, bringing it down to its Focus Sash, which is unsurprising. And we Psycho Cut into the Poliwrath and do more than I was expecting because it's a crit and it breaks through that defense boost. That crit was a huge deal because now Poliwrath is likely in range of another one or in a range of a Wicked Blow by Urshifu. And we miss Weavile, which honestly speaking is probably worse than it is. Like, it's probably not great because if I have Urshifu here, then Urshifu actually prevents them from protecting. But here now, there's a pretty easy protect on the Poliwrath. I don't really reasonably think I can not just go into the Poliwrath though. And so here they do protect, but like I said, it was too high of a risk not to attack that spot. And here with Manados, I just Snarl to get a little bit more of a special attack drop onto the Poliwrath or Politoed. And the Muddy Water hits with both and ends up killing the and we get the Actually drop on the Mandibuzz, which can definitely be pretty annoying later in this game. So now we just bring in Urshifu because Urshifu is going to be faster than their entire team, and Urshifu has a clean KO on any spot I want because of the choice band with Wicked Blow. Because Wicked Blow should in fact KO Politoed, Poliwrath, and a Raikou switch in. So here I, could see an argument to Roost or Snarl, but I decided to just Snarl. And like I said, the idea is just Wicked Blow because it could do anything. So here I'm technically checking to see if Wicked Blow does in fact kill Poliwrath, and I can confirm that it ends up being the case that does guarantee kill Poliwrath even at max HP, max defense. So we get the Wicked Blow into the Poliwrath, and we end up getting the Snarl off into the Politoed. Now Politoed's at -2 special attack for the rest of the game. And the Muddy Water ends up missing the Mandibuzz. And so it definitely has a little bit of luck on the misses, but like I said, the IC1 miss on the Weavile actually I'd consider as a negative because it definitely stalled out my Tailwind a little bit more than I would like. So now we're at 2v2, and it's Malamar and Mandibuzz versus Raikou Politoed. And so here, pretty much the only option is Snarl, and I do not have a lot of attack investment, so I feel like I need to superpower to get an attack boost, because otherwise Malamar's damage output is very questionable. So here the superpower connects, and we can see that I am faster under Tailwind, and I get the attack boost and the defense boost, which the defense boost doesn't do anything, but the attack boost is pretty relevant. The Thunderbolt goes into my Mandibuzz and activates my Wakon Berry. And here the Snarl ends up missing the Raikou, which is not super surprising since I had the accurate drop, but definitely is pretty annoying because if it did in fact hit, I think I completely have this game wrapped up. However, we see that I get a lucky again on the Muddy Water miss. So I definitely feel like I got pretty lucky so far this game on some misses, and I get an accuracy drop on Malamore. However, because of contrary, it actually is an accuracy increase, which is pretty relevant because it actually makes my rock slides 100% accurate. So here, the only option is really Roost. Um, I'm expecting it to die because how much the walk-on berry did. And here, I decided to just go with a rock slide in the hopes that I can KO the Politoed with it and get a little chip damage on the Raikou. So Thunderbolt does in fact kill the Mandibuzz. And now down to 2v1. And the Rock Slide gets the double connect, which is guaranteed because of the accuracy boost, and I just barely missed the Politoed. But the Muddy Water ends up missing here, which is pretty lucky again. This Politoed has been really inconsistency with their attacks, which has definitely given me a huge advantage here, because now I think I have this as long as I don't get paralyzed by Raikou's Thunderbolt. So we see Raikou's Thunderbolt goes into Malamar, doing pretty good damage, but not too bad, and I get the paralysis. And I was really sad here, because I'm like, man, I felt really good about this position until this paralysis. Muddy Water hits, does almost negligible damage, and I end up not getting fully paralyzed here, and I'm able to get pretty good damage. And so now, this game comes down to a crit or a full paralysis. I think I might be able to even take a crit. It's definitely really close, but I think if they crit, I die, and if I get a full paralysis, I also die. And so here, I'm just deciding what the optimal move is, and I think it's just Throat Chop. I don't think it really matters too much, because with Life Orb, I think any of my moves will actually kill it. So they do the Thunderbolt. It does not get a crit, so I survive, and now see if we get the paralysis, and it's don't get the paralysis. It's super exciting, incredibly close game. 40-ish% of the time I lose at the last turn, but we get there, and we get game one. So here we are for game two. So here I felt like overall all my Pokemon did good. I think I'm going to bring the same 4, but the question is do I want to leave the same? And so here I'm debating whether or not I should lead something like Malamar, because Malamar did do pretty well, and I think it does have a pretty reasonable lead against any of my opponent's Pokemon, especially with Fake Out support from Weavile. And then we have Mandibuzz and Urshifu, because I think those are definitely both very good Pokemon in this matchup. I definitely considered Sableye and Shiftry a little bit, but I decided to just go with those. So my opponent leads Mantine Politoed, which is definitely a pretty reasonable lead, and I lead Weavile Malamar. So with this, I am definitely more concerned on the Mantine than I am of the Politoed. And so I decide to just fake out into the Mantine spot and get a superpower off into the Politoed to get my attack and defense boost. Which right now the defense boost doesn't look super important. So get the fake out off into the Mantine, and it reveals a berry, which is which ends up increasing its defense. It's was definitely not expecting that. I have not seen that berry in a long while, but it does make sense because I have a lot of physical attackers on my team. So it's very likely I'm going to do physical damage and activate the berry. I get the superpower off, and they double collect into the Muddy Water. So now, with the +1 defense on the Mantine, I don't have a great way to deal damage into it. And so the only Pokemon I can reasonably deal damage into it with is, in fact, the Urshifu in the back now. And so here I just decide to Rock Slide and Triple Axle in hopes to do some pretty good damage into the Mantine. We see that the Mantine has Body Press in addition to its berry that increases defense, which is really smart because it definitely deals with one of the weaknesses of their team, which is that they're very specially oriented. I end up missing a Rock Slide, which is not too big a deal because I mainly wanted to Rock Slide into the Mantine. And they end up Weather Balling, which is noteworthy for later in the game, but not too much difference than if they just Muddy Water. It's just kind of an 100% accurate Muddy Water. And in this case, it would be better if it was like a Scald. So here we're bringing a Mandibuzz because I don't think there's much I can do, assuming that they outspeed me with Urshifu as my Pokemon in the back. So I think I have to set up Tailwind. And here we have a couple options, but the main ones are, getting another attack boost with Superpower, or just trying to get like a crit with the Psychic Crit because I have a higher crit chance. I decided to go with the Superpower into the Politoed because I feel like I need higher attack. and they reveal that Mantine also has Tail Run, which is really bad for me. So now their team is definitely going to outspeed me no matter what, and there's not much I can do about this. And they end up getting a crit onto the Malamar, which is also really bad, because this also makes me this Malamar beat dying there is not too big of a deal in the general sense, but the main reason it's important is because Urshifu being here right now is bad. Because if Urshifu could come back out with a -1 on the Mantine, I can survive a Hurricane, and I can even now I should be able to survive an Air Slash. And so, but at -1 I should be able to survive a Hurricane. And now with this, the Mantine is guaranteed to kill me, and I can't end up killing it with the Wicked Blow. And so I just need to hope that it has Air Slash and not Hurricane. And we reveal it as Hurricane, and this is a guaranteed KO. Nothing I can do about that. And Urshifu dies, and now it's a 4v1. So yeah, the crit, like I said, I don't think I was going to be able to win this game even without the crit, but if Mantine was -1, I have a non-zero chance to win this game still, in my opinion, especially if they do something like an Icy Wind or they have to Muddy Water. But now the game is completely out of reach. We're down to the 4v1, and so pretty much the only idea is to make sure I don't reveal any more information, so I'm just going to continue clicking Snarl because I don't want to reveal any information they don't already know. So I get the body press into a crit, which definitely is a relevant crit, but doesn't really matter at the moment. And do that, and here we snarl, and like I said, technically the correct play after this would be to click Roost because so that I increase the chance that I don't die. However, like I said, it's not that big. It's not worth giving them any information about my set that they don't already have. And so we'll just click Snarl again. And so here we see Mantine body press into the Mandibuzz. And the Muddy Water goes in and misses Mandibuzz. Like I said, technically if I would have Roost, I would have been in a better position than I was right now. However, this game is completely over, and I'm just minimizing the amount of information I give them. And so here, we just click Snarl one more time and let them kill me. And the body press goes in and kills my Mandibuzz. So that game definitely went a lot worse. Not feeling great about how that went, and I definitely feel like I need to shake it up for Game 3. So here we are for Game 3. So like I said, I definitely want to switch it up. I don't know exactly what I want to do though, so it's definitely hard thinking. So I think I want Sableye because so far one of the big problems that happened last game was the rain aspect of the team. And so Sableye having Sunny Day can seem pretty relevant, or at least Quash at the very least can be pretty useful. And so I decided I want to lead Sableye, and then I decided to lead Urshifu with it, because Urshifu does do very good damage into the entire team, except for maybe Moltres. And so I decided that since they haven't brought Moltres in the previous games, that maybe Weavile's not worth bringing. So Weavile seems like a really good Pokemon, and my team outspeeds their entire team outside of Tailwind, but I decided Mandibuzz seems very important, and Malamar seems very important. And so I decided to go with no Weavile. Because I'm like, what's the worst case scenario? They just lead Moltres, or other than the lead of a Moltres, I feel like this is the correct sequence. And my opponent ends up leading Mantine Moltres, which exactly punishes me for not having Weavile. Weavile is very good into Moltres, and I'm feeling not great now. So here, the obvious play is to fake out one of my Pokemon on my opponent's team, and probably either Wicked Blow into the Mantine or Close Combat into Moltres. I decide I want to deal damage into the Mantine spot, and so the options are I can fake out Moltres, attack Mantine, or fake out Mantine and attack Mantine. The reason why they're both a little bit questioned is if they switch in Politoed into the Moltres spot, Mantine outspeeds and one-shots Urshifu, and so I decide to go for the fake out and Wicked Blow into the Mantine spot. So they switch out Mantine into Politoed. And the fake out goes into the Politoed. And then they Brave Bird into the Urshifu. So this is definitely surprising. I wasn't expecting a physical Moltres at all. Maybe the only other damaging move they have is Hurricane, and they're concerned about a Sunny Day on the Sableye. And honestly speaking, maybe Sunny Day on Sableye into Wicked Blow into the Mantine spot was a better play that turn. However, this, it ended up working out okay because I do get a kill on turn 1. So they bring in Raikou, and this is definitely a little bit of a tricky spot because, like, if they just Braver into Moltres and then Thunderbolt into my Sableye spot, I don't feel great about my spot. So I'm debating on a couple of things. Like, obviously, if I just assume they're gonna switch out, let's say Moltres, I could quash Wicked Blow and kill the thing. But I decided to switch in Mandibuzz into the Sableye spot. And I decided to just sacrifice Urshifu and try to get some damage onto the Raikou spot. I don't expect it to do too much, but I think Malamar seems more important in the late game than this Urshifu does. And so they end up switching out Moltres, which I was definitely not expecting, into the Mantine. If I would have just quashed Wicked Blow, this would have been an amazing turn, but I switch out into Mandibuzz, which is not terrible, but definitely a little bit sad that I could have got max punished them. And they end up Thunderbolting into my Urshifu, killing it. Like I said, not the most surprising option, like I said, but I was definitely could have punished them for, a little bit of a grease switch in my opinion. And so here we have Mandibuzz, and I'm debating if I want Sableye or Malamar out. So Malamar's the more offensive, and so I decided to go there. Sableye doesn't do too much pressure. And so here I decide to just go with the Snarl to lower them both their special attacks, so they both have special attack. And then as usual, I'm going to start with Superpower because my attack, I need an attack boost. So they Hurricane into the Malamar, which doesn't do much damage at all, and the Thunderbolt, which also doesn't do a huge amount of damage. And we get the Snarl off and get the double connect, and I'm feeling pretty good because now both of their special attacks are notably lower, and I should be able to take that double up again. So we get the superpower off, and so I get the +1 attack and the +1 defense, which, as previously, not that big of a deal. Maybe a little bit with the body press on the Mantine, but most likely not that big of a deal. So here, I'm debating if Tailwind and Snarl. I decided to just Tailwind with the hopes that they don't, because I think that seems like a pretty reasonable thing, kind of to get. And I decided to Rock Slide with the expectation that they might protect Raikou or to get some more damage on Mantine. They end up switching out Raikou into the Moltres spot, which this ends up being pretty well because can hit both of them and is super effective against both of them. So they end up Tailwinding as well, which definitely makes my Tailwind a little bit sad because I would have felt a lot better if I would have Snarled here because both of them would be at -2 on the Mantine and -1 on the Malamar. So here, however, we just get the Rock Slide, and the Moltres ends up getting +1 at special attack from its Berserk, and the Mantine gets the +1 defense from its Berry. So here, there's not much I can do except for Snarl, and I decide to go with the actually, I'm debating on what I want to do with the Malamar. I can see an argument instead of just attacking with it, switching to Sableye so I can get Fake Out and kind of set up Sunny Day and things like that. So we switch into the Sableye because I think I need to save the damage output of the Malamar for the later in this game. So Malamar comes out, and we switch into the Sableye. And they Hurricane into the Sableye, which Sableye takes pretty well. And they Hurricane with the Moltres into the Sableye as well, and Sableye just barely survives, and I get the Citrus Berry active. So we do see that Moltres does in fact have a Hurricane, not just a physical attacks, and so that definitely is noteworthy. So here we can get a special attack drop on both of them, and we also lose the Rain, which now makes Hurricane a 70% accurate move instead of the 100% accurate move, which it previously was. So here there's not much options other than just Snarl to lower the special attack again, and the options are Sunny Day to further decrease the Hurricane accuracy, including Moltres specifically, because we know Moltres is Choice Band. or Choice Scarf. But we decided to just fake out because I think it's better to kind of guarantee I don't take damage from Ultras. And so here we just Snarl to lower both of their special attacks. And they end up roosting onto the Mantine. And so here, I think the play is to Snarl to lower their special attacks a little bit more. Snarl to lower both their special attacks more. And I decide to Encore the Mantine to make it completely useless for the next couple of turns, so that I have some ability to, kind of stall the game out a little bit and give my place some ability to, or my Pokemon a little bit of ability to do setup. And so we Encore them. The Hurricane goes into the Sableye and ends up killing the Sableye. And we Snarl, and the Snarl ends up mitching the Moltres, which is definitely a little bit sad, but it's not the end of the world. And Mantine continues to roost, which it's required to do because it was Encored. And so both of our Tailwinds are out, and so now I have the ability to bring in Malamar, set up Tailwind, and Superpower into Moltres, which we know can't protect. So this is definitely a really good position, and I feel great as long as I don't get confused by a Hurricane here, because I should easily take it, and then I should be able to pretty easily, deal with the Raikou when I'm faster than it with my Malamar. So they Hurricane into the Malamar, doesn't do too much damage, but does get confused, and I'm really sad. This is the second time that I'm like, oh, I'm fine as long as this doesn't happen, and then that exact thing happens, which is definitely pretty sad. So I do get confused. However, I do hit through the confusion this turn, and I do get the attack boost, and I'm feeling pretty good about this. And Mantine roosts, which it's required to do again. And so here, we pretty much only play Snarl, and I decide to Superpower into the Raikou to try to get another attack and kill Raikou here. However, it's probably pretty obvious that Raikou protects here, and I definitely think it's probably a slight misplay, but it's not that big of a deal because I don't think I do enough damage to actually do much into the Mantine based on it. It doesn't do much damage to overdeal the roost that it's going to do because it's Encored. I end up not getting confused, which is definitely a pretty big deal, and Mantine roost, which it's required to do again. So maybe I should have, superpowered into Mantine, but, that would have been a really bold lead. So here we just Snarl and Superpower. As long as, I should be able to kill Raikou if I hit it with the Superpower here. So Raikou tries to go for the double protect, which I understand, and the Snarl ends up hitting the Raikou but missing the Mantine. And here we just hope we don't get confused, and we should be able to kill Raikou, and then we end up hitting ourselves, which is really sad. The Mantine sets up a Tailwind, and I end up now not outspeeding. So this would definitely been an amazing position because Malamar would be at +2 attack, +2 defense, and Raikou would be dead if I would have not got hit by the confusion. However, I do get hit by the confusion. They end up hitting me with Thunderbolt. I'm able to Snarl, do some more damage, and lower the special attacks of them even more. And because they set up the Tailwind, Mantine is faster and the Body Press kills. Like I said, I don't think the Body Press by itself would have killed because of me being at +2 if I would have actually hit the Superpower previously. So now it's a 2v1. However, Raikou is pretty close to dead. If I hit it with a Snarl and it attacks, I think it's dead because of its Life Orb. And I have the Wakan Berry, so I should take it. We see that Mantine's at -6 special attack, and Raikou's at -2 special attack. So here I decide, like I said, just to Snarl to get some damage into the Raikou, and hopefully killing it here. So Thunderbolt goes into the Mandibuzz. And as you can tell, it does very little damage. And now it looks pretty much like it's in Snarl range. And then the Body Press goes into the Mandibuzz, doing more than I would hope. because it's a crit. um, and so here we get to start off and in fact kill Raikou, and now it is time for a very long end game. So here we are with two really bulky Pokemon who both have Roost, and so I just continuously hit Roost, and they continuously hitting me with Body Press. And so I try to do a little bit of damage with Dual Ring Bing, and they try to do, Dual Press. But basically the idea here is that they do more damage than me. However, I know that they've used a lot of Body Presses already. And so the idea is that hopefully I can stall out the PP of the Body Press before they crit me with a Body Press. One of the awkward things with this specific situation is that because I'm faster than them, the Body Press is doing more damage because Roost grounds me, which gets rid of my flying type, which makes it do even more damage with the Body Press. And so I can only take, cannot take too many Body Presses when I'm grounded, but I can take a pretty good amount when I'm not grounded. And so I continuously Roost and basically stalling out their PP, and we're getting very close to the situation where, we're running very little on time, and the idea is just, stall out the Body Press PP and hope that we can get to a situation at that point that the game will be, able to kind of deal with it. We're both being really, really fast because we don't want to kind of have a stalling type of thing, which, people are not a huge fan of stalling, so we're going as quickly as we physically can to end this game, and we end up getting to the time where we're almost out of time, but they still have some PP on their Body Press, and like I said, not much you can do other than just Roost and Roost and Roost. And so now we get to the last point of the game. Now we're only a few seconds left. They have no PP left on their Body Press, and we just click Dual Wing Beat because to get a little damage on them. They end up clicking a little bit on their Roost to get to max HP. And this is the end of the game, and I have no idea how ties work. All I know is that I'm at almost max HP. They are at literally max HP, and we can just click whatever because the time is up. And we see that I defeated Dan. I have no idea how I was so surprised that this was crazy end of the game. However, I don't know what happens if this game lasts forever. However, all I know is that this game ended up being crazy close in game 1 and 3, and game 2 was a complete blowout in favor of Dan. I definitely got some major luck, but also occasional, bad luck that ended up, just barely kind of getting me close to losing. It was a great match, and I really enjoyed it, and, Saki was really well prepared. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week.